Hi, everyone. Welcome to a very special episode of Courage of Ease TV with my new amazing friend, Diane Halfman. Diane Halfman, oh my gosh. All I have to say is self-care soul sister from another mister. We have jived on so many levels on the self-care front, and I got so excited because, my community is so used to hearing the self-care message from me. And here's this woman even deeper on the journey who's created an entire life anchored around self-care and beauty, which I'll tell you more about. And I wanted to share our conversation with you because her transformation from where she came from to where she is now is like remarkable. It had me on the edge of my seat at a meeting that we were at where I saw her speak. So we went out for a beach walk, and here we are because these conversations are super valuable. And so I wanted to bring, and share Diane with you, my community. So welcome, Diane.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here with you and your tribe.
Awesome. Yeah. So just to tell you a little bit more of Diane, I have a few notes here because I want to do her justice with what it is that she's creating in the world. So Diane is a celebrity speaker and philanthropist and an international premier expert in the science and psychology of SpaLife, which is the name of her company. And SpaLife is a lifestyle that accepts the notion that accomplishment and harmony can actually coexist, which resonates so deeply with my mission as well, that accomplishment and ease can also coexist. So you're starting to see some of the alchemy here. We're going to have a really amazing conversation around this, because Diane actually had a diverse career as a police officer in a past life, and now has created this beautiful, SpaLife business where she's helping people really create harmony in their outside and also their inside by taking really amazing care of themselves. So, Diane, tell me a little bit about your story. I love to start there because it stands out to me as one of the most fascinating ones that I've actually heard.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's definitely, that polarity that we create in our life can be really interesting at times. I was a San Diego police officer for 10 years, so I worked uniform patrol, but I also worked assignments undercover in gangs, narcotics, and vice. And so what happened in that space is, as you can imagine, I have literally been in thousands of homes. And so what I had the opportunity to see was the facade that so many people live. And so it's like there's that first part that we show up in the world, but there's so many things that can be happening behind the scenes that are not in alignment with who we are. And so that's what leads to our life not working. And so I coined the term clutter to drama ratio, that I found that the more clutter people had in their space, and I really focused on their physical space, so the physical clutter and things that were happening, but it also applies to the clutter in the mental space, in the busyness, and the chaos that people tend to create in their life without seeing what the consequences are. And so the more of that that's happening, that's where the more drama would occur. That's where the police would end up showing up more at the home, and people would have these experiences that they didn't think they were choosing to do. However, one of the things I really found out was that the reverse is true as well, was that if you started reducing all of the noise that I call in the life, where it's the clutter, the mind, the relationships that aren't working, I mean, all these different aspects, I look at actually 9 different key elements that really make up a life. And when you really get those into harmony and you decrease all of those things, then your satisfaction in your life really starts coming into pass. So that when I retired from the department, I really started stepping into, how is it that we experience our life? And I came up with SpaLife because it's not just about having a massage, it's about having extreme self-care, where every aspect of your life, interweaves with the other so that you can actually show up and live your best life.
Oh, extreme self-care. I love, it's like almost rebellious in nature. It like triggers like that part of me. It's like, oh yeah, let me be a rebel of self-care.
Yes.
And also like experiment with the extremes that we can play with, of like, so much of my client's journey is finding out, okay, showing the mirror of what no self-care looks like.
Yes.
Right. And then also playing with the extremes of like, okay, what does it look like to only take care of yourself for a day or 2 or a week?
Yes.
Like let things sort themselves, and then finding that middle ground of what uniquely works for them.
Right. And you can do this in just your everyday life to really look at, how can you take the circumstances that are in front of me and reverse, flip that on its side and look at it in a different way. One of my favorite examples is when I caught one of your Facebook lives and you and your man were driving in the car on the 405. One of my favorite videos ever. And I'm just like, what's that girl listening to? I'm going to plug that into my tunes. And, a lot of people don't think of how can I turn around a 405 experience, because you always hear about either people complaining or it took a long time or whatever. And you made it an experience. That is exactly what I'm talking about, is extreme self-care, because how much better is that journey when you have that mindset?
And I will tell you, I love this example, and thank you for highlighting one of the videos, because that day, so my boyfriend and I tend to be, we're quite sensitive. And on the weekends, we tend to just kind of like just hermit together and just like connect. We're also short, long distance, I call it. Like we're like an hour and a half away. So we see each other on the weekend. And so we had this big plan to like go down Rodeo Drive and like check out the Santa Monica Pier. And honestly, like the best part of the day was that car ride. Right? We think it was going to be like all the external things, but it was the experience that we conjured within ourselves in our own little bubble in the convertible on the 405, blasted the speakers, which are so badass in that car, and had that beautiful time together. And seriously, people come up to me and they're like, oh my God, what song was that? Like, you're having so much fun. And I'm like, of all the videos, right? It's the one where it's just like in the moment, like, I'm going to put this on.
Right.
And it ends up translating so beautifully.
Right. Well, it's so much about the journey. I always look at, and I refer to like your calendar as an experience of your life, because, remember like when you were a kid, what is it you looked forward to? Summer vacation, right? And you looked forward to that. So what is it as an adult that we're adding into our life that we look forward to? And it's that journey, because sometimes it's actually, so a couple of years ago, my boyfriend and I went to Italy for a month. And even though we had an amazing epic trip going there, I really think some of the best moments about that trip was planning the trip and looking forward to the trip and talking about the trip and leading up to the trip, because it was all part of the journey, right? It's not just getting there, it's getting how it looks like on your road there.
Totally. I actually just had a client call this morning, and she just got engaged. And she's been planning her wedding for like the past few months because it's just that exciting to her. Right. And someone actually, weddings can kick up like all kinds of like interesting comments and opinions from people. And someone kind of dug at her for doing that. It's like, you're not even engaged yet. Why would you be doing that? It's like, she's planning this thing that brings her so much joy, all the ways that she wants to feel, right? Why not spend your time there and not delay it out into the future? Because there's so much of that we're just like delaying gratification when we could choose it right now in really simple ways.
Right. It's funny you talk about like the wedding experience, because I don't know if you know Morgana Ray. She talks about the alchemy of money, and her husband, they have gotten married. I don't even know the count right now, but they've gotten married to each other like 20 times. And
what?
Yes. And so I have actually, like, I just talked to her. In fact, she was at an event I was at this weekend, and we were talking about it. And I just said, what has inspired you guys to get married that many times to each other? And she said, there's something about, we love to travel, and it's love to be in like different destinations. And when we get married again to each other, we focus on another aspect that we appreciate about each other, what we want out of our relationship, and it deepens the connection of why we are together. And that is like, so, talk about extreme self-care, about looking outside the box to really cherish your relationship at that level, that you would commit to somebody that many times over and over again to make it part of your journey.
That is the coolest thing.
Right? Yeah, they're amazing. Her and Devin.
Oh my gosh. That's a woman I want to know. Right? Yes. It's like these ways that we can just make our life uniquely our own. Like that's ultimately what we're here to do.
Yes.
And I want to bring it back to the clutter conversation, because that like so struck a chord with me when I heard you talk about that when you spoke at the meeting that I was at. I remember before I traveled to Bali in 2014, I had my perfect little nest of an apartment. Okay. And it's so interesting because it was all my stuff was like brown. It was like this deep mid-tone brown. And at the time I really liked that. Now I look at that, I'm like, that is so not me, but it was me at the time. And when I traveled to Bali, so Bali is when I actually came back to my knowing that I do love myself, that I do like who I found beyond the structures of time, beyond work obligations, beyond relationships in my family, money, all of these definitions of my identity that I had. And the first thing that happened when I walked through the door, when I came back from Bali, a time when it was just like stripping away all the things that no longer needed, all the emotions came up, let it go, came back, and I'm like, it is so crowded in here. I had just spent 2 months with everything I needed on my back, right? Everything that I needed fit in a backpack that I could carry on my own back. And so when I came back, I'm like, I do not need this anymore. And that's when I really got that our external environment that we keep is a direct reflection of the internal chaos and or peace and spaciousness that we have inside.
Absolutely.
And did you find that, like, even as you, having a life as a police officer, right? That's like pretty intense, especially in the areas that you were, assigned to. Yeah. Did you notice an evolution of like the kind of stuff that you held in your own home as you kind of evolved out of that?
Absolutely. It's interesting because, and this is just kind of a little insight, as a police officer, especially back then when I was the only woman on my squad. So there was a lot of like looking outside of the box about how I was living my life and what it looked like. And as you can imagine, when people call 911, you have to show up and you have to be that strength and that pillar, and people look for you to solve what's happening, right? And you have to be that. However, that's one aspect of who you are. At the time when I was in the department, especially when I first started, I was 25 and I was going through, a lot of people didn't know, I was going through, a pretty messy divorce, and I had 2 young daughters. And so, here I had to show up in one way with the world and solve all the problems and be superwoman. But then behind the scenes, I was like just trying to figure out, how am I going to make my mortgage payment? How am I going to take care of my daughters? How is it that I'm going to do all the things that I'm going to do? And I know particularly in the times that I was working either shift work or undercover and my hours were erratic, that my space would start reflecting where I let mail stack up, or I didn't put some clothes away, or the dishes would stack up, and these things started happening. And I know that it became a reflection of the turmoil that was happening in my life, in my relationship. You don't see the type of things that I would see every day and not have an impact in your daily experience. Right. So one of the things I really got to understand and appreciate is as I cleared things out of my space, when I took that time to really have that extreme self-care, that it really allowed my nervous system to calm down, for me to be more clear, for me to be a more present parent, and to show up more for my community and to be in that place. For someone who had to make quick decisions based on instinct and training, you got to have clarity in as many other areas of your life as possible. So it's really important to look at your space and to really strip away anything that doesn't reflect you. And that's how it supported me when I was with the department. However, when I started stepping into SpaLife and I started being with my clients, and I really started looking at not only for myself, but for the people that I work with, is really being present in the space that you live, and to walk in. There's an energy to each room that we live in. There's a different energy, or we want to cultivate a different energy in our bedroom versus our kitchen versus our area that we share with other people. And what is those experiences that we want to have? Because it's actually an active process that we want to connect with people in those spaces. So a great exercise is just to stand in each room of your home and start asking yourself the questions, what do I love about this place? Do I love the colors? Do I love the things? Do they inspire me? Or are there things in there that are draining my energy? And one of the big things that come up for people is things that they received as a gift, or that they inherited from someone, and it's not actually their energy or something that they chose, and it doesn't actually resonate with them.
Totally.
I tell people, because I know you guys get this, where, it's like you don't want to get rid of something because of the person that gave it to you. However, the energy doesn't support you in this space. Yep. So what I share with people is that the energy of a gift is given when they actually hand it to you. And you fully receive it, and you're in gratitude, and you love it. But what you do with it from there is really no one else's business. It's really about honoring yourself, because if you actually accept something into your space that doesn't really resonate and you don't absolutely love it, you're actually not honoring the message and the intention and the energy of the gift. So it's actually better if you would give that gift to someone else who would appreciate it. Or even if you donate it, someone else is going to pick it up and they're going to love it. And then the energy of the gift keeps going.
Oh, I love that, Diane.
Yes.
I love that. Yeah, it's not, we put so much emphasis on stuff, but it's really the experience of the thing and the energy and the love that came with it, the thoughtfulness.
Right.
And then beyond that, it's not like that energy stays in that thing.
Right.
Yeah, I can totally see where it gets like complicated from there of the meaning, excuse me, the meaning that we put on the thing. And it's not about that. That's super cool. And you know, the question that came to mind, so I actually lived nomadically in San Diego for about a year, just over a year, the first year that I got here, which means I didn't have a place of my own and I loved it. It was the first time in my life without a lease, anything tying me down. And it was like freedom. It was a taste of freedom that I really needed at the time. And I'm so glad I did that. I learned so much about manifesting and like calling in exactly what you want.
Right.
It was fun and chaotic and all the things it needed to be. And so that process of kind of like, I literally downsized my whole life in Cleveland to move out here. And then I was here with a bag. I had a book bag and my suitcase, and I would bounce around different places. So bridging out of that has been interesting. Right. And so my question to you is, my spaces tend to be even oversimplified. And I'm in this process of selecting what comes into the space. So I would love to hear what your like strategy is. And this is a tool that all of us can use of like, how do you intentionally and consciously choose what then comes into the space, matching how, almost like how you want to feel in that space and what experience you want to create.
I love that. You know, one of the things that kind of brought to mind is somebody once, one of my mentors shared with me one time was that anything that you own owns you in time, energy, and space. So we really want to consciously, you know, build your life by design versus by default. So when you actually bring something into your space, you want to consciously bring it into your space to decide, does this inspire me? Does it bring me joy? Do I love it? Does it serve a purpose?
Yes.
You know, or is there a toleration associated with it? You know, if you start kind of feeling, I mean, you got to really trust like your gut instinct, because your own essence really knows what serves you and what doesn't. And, you know, I mean, I've had people that, you know, they've had things carried in their life for years and years because of the energy of like, well, someday I might need that. Or it's more of a scarcity mindset because you're not actually using it. You probably haven't used it in, you know, 5, 10, 20 years. So you kind of have to ask yourself what's actually behind the energy of why you're holding on to it. Because if we're holding scarcity energy in our space, it's going to reflect into all the other areas of our life, whether it's in money, relationships, how we feel about ourselves. I mean, all of that. That's one of the things that I love about extreme self-care, because when you are abundantly taking care of yourself, you're putting the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Yep.
Then that energy is what reverberates out into the world, not only to have that abundance come back to yourself, but to everyone else that you touch.
Yes. So good. Yeah. So part of it is like really clearing the space for something wonderful and aligned to come in first and foremost, and then selecting the things that really align. I love what you said about the essence. And how would you, what's an easy way for people to get in touch with their essence from your perspective? Like what's the easy way for them to tune into that?
Well, I find that it's really actually very experiential. You know, and I think that, you know, whether you're determining what your values are or what's in your space, I think it's just fun to do just a few like experiences. And so let's say that you have 2 pieces of decor in your home and set them in front of you, set both of them in front of you, and just really focus on each one individually. And you ask yourself, you know, if I could have only one of these and not both, which one am I drawn to? And so, and start looking at it, and you start then seeing what are the nuances about as well. I mean, there's something about a clothes where maybe you're drawn to the color, but the work for you. So you really want to look into, it's actually better. In fact, the clothes are a really great example to actually choose a few things that you feel amazing in, you know, because you show up as that energy in the world. It'd be better if you had 5 or 10 pieces of clothing than 20 to 100 that didn't really resonate with who you are, because what happens in the morning is you step in there and you start saying, no, 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 yes, maybe, no, 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 right? And so you're starting the day with a lot of no's and negatives.
Interesting.
Talking into a space where everything's a yes. So that's what you want to create in your home, in every room, is everything's a yes.
Yes. Yes to that. That gets you like invigorated, and like that's what creates magnetism.
Yes.
Right? Like that much more yeses can come. I work so much with my women in my program about like, what's your true yes and what's a no? And having the courage to hold out for the yes, like to create space for the yes is so crucial. And I have like so many stories of that along my own journey of how worth it is.
I love that you actually use the word magnetism, because, one of my soul sisters who you will meet, and you saw our video together, is Angel Evans. Angel is amazing. You two will definitely meet.
I felt it in the video.
Right?
Like.
Yes, totally. So she's doing some amazing things to help people just like, light up their brain and their essence, and to really look at impact in a really big way. So you definitely will meet her. Awesome. But one of the things that she has been talking about is that, shifting women in particularly from being electric to magnetic. And the difference is slight. However, electric can be very frenetic energy, where it's very just like, crazy, out there. But magnetic is actually an energy where something is being pulled to you. Electric can be like feeling depleting, but magnetic is it's coming to you, and it's more an essence of who you're being. It's a great word.
I love that so much. I've been playing with my own strategies around magnetism recently. Yes. And I love that energy, because when I'm in that, because there's a lot of electricity. So if you think of electricity, it's like running and pulsing and moving very quickly, right? It's just the nature of that type of fire. It's a fire element, right?
Yeah.
Magnetism, there's just like this grounded knowing, and you're just like, yeah.
Yummy.
Yeah, it's good. And the electricity, it's like there's a exerting of energy, where the magnetism, it's like everything that I get to say yes to. And naturally, when you're magnetizing from a authentic, truthful, powerful, clear place within you, you're only going to be attracting the things on your wavelength anyway. So there's actually less to say no to after a while.
Absolutely.
Right? Of just like holding that space of knowingness of what it is that you're calling in to your life.
Yep. Love it.
Oh, so good. Okay. Well, I'm kind of have this spidey sense that we're probably going to have more conversations.
We're together forever now.
Yeah. Besties. We're on the path together. Yeah. So thank you. Truly. Thank you so much for not only your storytelling. I think it's really powerful. I'm trying to kind of lean into the edge of telling even more stories myself, because that's the language of how we connect. And your story is just so powerful. And I also want to honor you for being a pioneer in your space. And I really do mean that, because you have been leading the self-care journey long before it was ever on my radar. And I'm really grateful for that, because it's women like you that pave the path that make it so much easier for me, to come in my natural gifts and be received. So I'm really grateful for what you've created.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I think, even, whether it was back in the day when I started doing it, or, as the women do it today, is anytime a woman drops into the grid of having that extreme self-care for themselves and being more magnetic, it actually reverberates and touches other women. So by the things that we do for ourselves, it actually helps other people.
It is endlessly true. The ripples keep on going. And we get to love everyone else so much better by starting with us over and over again. Yeah.
So good.
Thank you, love. Where can everyone find you if they want to get more from you?
Thank you. Well, you can definitely follow me on Facebook under Diane Halfman Fan, and you can, pop me a personal message if you'd like to connect with me personally. And one of the things I definitely want to give to your audience, because we've talked here a lot about the physical space and how much that really impacts everyone on a deep level. So I'd love to give a gift to your tribe of my clutter awareness quiz. And it's
Cool.
something that is, it only takes 4 minutes because awareness is everything. I mean, we can make shifts and change and really make an understanding of what's working for us and what maybe we need further support in. So you can go to theclutterawarenessquiz.com. Again, that's theclutterawarenessquiz.com. And you'll get the results right away, because awareness is always the first step in the journey to create a space that really resonates with your heart and soul.
So good. So good. Thank you for that sweet gift.
Absolutely.
Be sure to take her up on it. This woman is a wizard in that space. All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for joining us for Courage of Ease TV. As always, let this be your home for inspiration and permission when it comes to taking exquisite care of yourself. Till next time.